This situation is complicated, so please excuse the vague title. A few minor details have been fudged to provide some anonymity. My dad had a marriage before the one to my mother. It was only for a few years, but they had one child, my older sister, aka OS. My mom was her babysitter and ended up marrying my dad when OS was 5. I was born 9 years later, and my younger sister, aka YS, was born 2 years later. After YS was born, my mom decided she didn't give two shits about OS and that OS was taking resources from YS and me. I'm not trying to defend her, just give context. She basically prevented our dad from paying for OS to go to college or helping OS financially in any way, along with pretty badly abusing OS while dad was away on business trips. OS is now in her late 30s, I'm in my late 20s, and YS is in her mid 20s. Our dad passed away from heart failure a few weeks ago, and all hell has broken loose. Apparently, some time ago, my dad convinced my mom to divorce him for tax reasons. My mom is not good with money and was paying her a chunk of change in alimony every month while they still lived together. So the will has nothing for her except one small house he owned in the middle of nowhere. YS and I are both given trust funds that pay out a monthly stipend and can be used for certain expenses. Weddings, medical bills, grad school, etc. Everything else, the business, the money, all the other houses, everything was left to OS. This doesn't really bug me as I wasn't interested in taking up the family business, and I have a decent career on my own. But my mother apparently doesn't have a savings or retirement fund of any kind, and hasn't worked since she babysat OS ages ago. She didn't finish high school, she dropped out to marry my dad when she turned 18. I tried approaching OS to talk to her about giving something to my mom so she doesn't have to work, but she is pretty firm on making sure that my mom gets nothing. I tried going from the angle that our dad was kind of a predator and my mom didn't know any better, but OS is of the opinion that being destitute is her just desserts for the crap my mom put her through. I tried to see if mom could contest the will on the grounds of their common law marriage. As far as I know, no one knew they were divorced except them. But my state apparently did away with common law marriage in the 1920s. OS is the executor of the estate, and it's in probate right now. I think that's the right terminology. Sorry, I'm not a lawyer, but I gave a copy of the will to my friend's dad, who is a lawyer, and he said he'd take a look over the weekend. My questions. 1. Can the trust I was given be used to help my mother instead of me? 2. Is there some kind of loophole where we can still get some money from OS to make sure mom doesn't have to work? I know she probably should get a job, but she has no experience and is over 50. 3. If we can't get money from OS, the estate, or my trust, am I required to provide my mother with care if she refuses to get a job? I'm hoping to get some answers to these as a sort of second opinion, alongside my friend's dad's opinion, so I know if I need to be setting aside money for an attorney to fight hard for my mom or just kind of distance myself. TLDR. My dad was a serial cheater and my mom was admittedly abusive to my OS, way more than I've mentioned here. Mom and dad weren't married when dad died. OS got basically everything, trying to find out if there's anything to be done for my mom or if she's royally screwed. After reading that, you might think the exact same thing as the comment section, that the mom shouldn't be getting anything. User RS Obsidian said it perfectly. So you want your abused older sister to support your abusive mother who abused your older sister? Good luck with that. To answer your question, you've already stated that you have a lawyer's friend looking at the will. Their advice is probably going to be more useful than anything here. While it's fair to think this way, we must not forget that according to OP, the mother was sort of manipulated in her younger years. Although that is unfortunate, it does not excuse her abuse of the older child. Overall, the situation is just very complicated. And I really can't blame the older sister for not wanting to help. More than anything, it kind of just feels like OP and his mom are a bit entitled. The next post was created in the AITA subreddit in 2020. It's titled, "Will I be the for not paying for things for my mom or letting her move in with me now that she lost her job due to coronavirus?" I'll try to be brief. I made a post about this last year, but TLDR, my wealthy dad passed away and left almost everything to my older half-sister. Through some legal shenanigans, he managed to disinherit my mom and only left her a house in the boonies and no income. They'd been secretly divorced for a decade. My mom was forced to get a job, but she had no real skills or college education. She dropped out of high school to marry my dad dad as soon as she turned 18 and was a stay-at-home wife and mom until he died. She started working at a movie theater to help pay bills, but was constantly guilt-tripping my younger sister and me because we got trust funds, but she couldn't afford to live in quote-unquote the style she was accustomed to. Frankly, it got on my nerves because the trust fund only pays for certain things and my mom's expenses aren't one of them. Anyway, when coronavirus hit, my mom lost her job. She has been hounding my little sister and me to pay her bills or let her move in with us. She refuses to go on unemployment because she's better than that. But over the year plus since dad's death, I've been going to therapy and started to come to understand that my mom is just a person. She was abusive to my older sister and expects everyone in the family to worship the ground she walks on. I haven't given my mom any money yet, but my younger sister has. When I talked to my therapist about it, she said that my mom is not entitled to my income from work and there are resources out there for my mother. Furthermore, letting my mom move in may endanger the relationship I've been building with my older sister, a relationship that was sabotaged by my mother a lot when we grew up. But at the same time, she's my mother and I don't know if I would be a huge for basically telling her to look elsewhere for a handout, especially when I know my younger sister will just cave. I feel guilty about the way this will impact my little sister, but at the same time, I've told her mom isn't entitled to her time/money either.